While I was working on building another AI project, I just something got into my head that made me want to build this instead. This is a Quake-like multiplayer online shooter that AI mostly helped me build. Now, I say mostly because the AI started writing this and put everything into a single file that started to grow out of hand. And then the bugs that were being produced were getting to be impossible to find and debug and impossible for the AI to comprehend what it had even done. However, I was able to start breaking it apart into more manageable, human readable files. And I have this, which is not perfect because I am not a great coder, and neither is Claude or any of the other models that I'm using through Cursor. However, it works, and it was really quick to spin up. I'd like to say that it took me 30 minutes to make my multiplayer online shooter, like somebody recently made their um, flight simulator, but it definitely took a lot longer than that. Maybe the initial version was about an hour, but after that, to make it somewhat usable and playable, it's definitely taken some days. Um, Now, it is pretty good, but there are definitely some issues I'm still working on, and I'm going to continue working on, continue developing. But right now, it works, and it's pretty fun. That leaderboard over there um, sort of works, but at the moment doesn't save because I need to still spin up a little website so I can host that to read and write to it. Um, but it's cool. It is currently being hosted on like a free server and for testing, and it definitely works. This is another human over here who I can shoot, and I'm just gonna let her go. And then this is my second instance. I can pop them, and these guys are little NPCs that you can shoot, and they explode. Little confetti explosion whenever they are killed. We added jumping so we can jump. We added a little bit of platforming. You can jump on these little boxes. Up here, there's like a little uh, yellow box that doesn't do anything yet, but maybe we're going to add weapons up here or something like that. Really difficult for Claude to figure out was this being able to jump up on top of boxes and platform. So this kind of collision was easy, running into the side of stuff. That was easy for the AIs to figure out, but the hard one was this jumping up on top. There were implementations where it worked, but when they got this to work, you could just run right through walls, just like the NPCs still do, because I haven't bothered to make an implementation for them yet. And then eventually I just um cleared the chats and just tried to start over and gave it a different prompt. And what eventually I got was this, which kind of works. And if you get too close to the edge, you kind of start sliding off. But you know what? I'm okay with this implementation for now because it does get you platforming and colliding. And then we had to implement some kind of a raycast solution. Stop shooting me, to be able to collide our bullets with the sides of obstacles. And then we show a little indicator that you've done that. And we added random spawn points for the players. And that was a pain to get actually working because AI is strange. at least these AIs, and maybe I'm bad at prompting, right? It will, you can ask it to do something and it will often do that, but then it will also think about, especially the thinking model, it will think about other things that would be cool and it will just start implementing them on its own without being prompted to do so, which is really interesting. And it's what actually led to the confetti explosion. I asked it to do something else with maybe hit detection. Yeah, it was hit detection because hit reg is still a little bit weird, a little wonky, and I think I know the reasons why. But the hit registration was way worse before, and I asked it to fix it, and it went through and it did fix it. But also, without telling me, it added this explosion, which had me dying laughing because I didn't even know it was going to happen. And these, I saw my little dudes explode into confetti, and it was just the funniest thing I had ever seen. And I laughed for a good 10 minutes probably. And then because it was happening, so that was, it added it to the player versus player um deaths, but it didn't add it to the NPCs. And I wanted to add it to the NPCs. So I asked, and it took me probably 2 days to get it to work for NPCs. Mostly, eventually, when I gave up on the AI implementing it itself, um, then I was able to go through myself and look at how it had done it and set it up myself. And eventually, that also led to moving these NPCs off of the client side and onto server side, which is where they should have been in the first place. Um, but it did all that on its own, which was funny. It also, like, when I asked it to make some random spawn points for the player, it did not randomize them. It put them in the four corners, and it put these little green discs down to show where they're at. It's a pretty rough approximation because there's the spawn point, there's where the player ends up. Anyway, the other thing it did, I have to eat the light score here, or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just not worry about it. When you get the top score, it like adds a little message that says you have the top score, and I had it add a little crown icon, which I'm sure I don't own the rights to for um, publishing or anything, but it was like a cool little flair to when you get top score, it puts that puts a little message up there that you're on top. Um, and every time I make an edit to the code or ask the AI to make an edit to the code, almost every time without fail, it changes something I didn't ask it to change. Like I was saying, sometimes it adds those little surprises, but other times it touches stuff that I definitely didn't ask, and it breaks something that has been working pretty good. Um, right now, if I don't want to do it right now, but if I reload my game, I won't be able to see the other players. And this has been an ongoing bug that the AI introduces to the game on its own. We get it fixed, and then it reintroduces it almost every time we make an edit. So I can see Delight over there, and if I reload the game to reset my player as I'm a new player coming in, she will be invisible, and I will not be able to see her. And she'll still be able to see me because I load in while she's on the server. But when I load in, I can't see her until I hit her with a bullet or kill her or something happens. Like maybe somebody else kills her. Then I'll be able to see her when she respawns. It's really strange. And I'm going to go in and get into it myself uh, without the AI to figure that out. Because as good as AI is, or as much as it really quickly helps create a little working prototype, it it's really bad at doing it correctly. It put everything into a single file. A lot of the stuff was on the client side that should have been on server side. A lot of stuff is still on client side that should be on server side, and we're still going to be fixing all of that. Another problem is this obstacle, and all the other obstacles fall victim to this too, to a lesser extent. But this big obstacle, when I asked it to fix hit registration and add a raycast to make sure that we hit obstacles before we hit enemy players or NPCs. If there's an obstacle behind it, I can't hit him because the raycast doesn't care when it hits an obstacle. If it hits an obstacle at all, it won't hit NPC. If I aim lower, good. If I aim at this wall, can't hit him. If I aim, yeah, went. But as long as it's not there, or if the floor is there, because the floor is not an obstacle, we can still hit. There's some like funkiness going on with that raycast system that I'm going to have to get into myself to fix. So it's not to say that AI development is perfect or good or that anybody can do it. Like, I don't think anybody can do it. We're not at that point yet where you can just start prompting and make a game. You could prompt and make really minor games, but once you get into like this kind of thing where it's multiplayer, we have a server and hit registration and important considerations, security and things like that. I don't think you should just or could just develop a game on your own with AI if you have no experience. But I have a little bit of experience in Unity. The difference is this is a JavaScript game. I don't know JavaScript. I know a little bit of I know C sharp, and so I know some coding and I know general um, rules, the way syntax works. So it's not easy to just look at the code and kind of adapt it and figure it out as I go. See that name tag through the wall here. The known bug. This is also a known bug. Whee! Boop. I also can't be killed by NPCs. Shoots me right now. I die though. What was I saying? I was saying something about I know how to code in C sharp. I don't really know how to code in Java, and I've also never made any multiplayer projects in Unity yet. And this was the first multiplayer project that I've worked on, the first JavaScript project that I've worked on. It's the first shooter project that I've worked on, actually. So the fact that I was able to spin this up relatively quickly and it's like a fun little game to play is pretty cool that you can do that, especially if you have a little bit of experience. But I think that when you really look at the code base and really look at like the gameplay and how it works, there's still a lot of code that you're going to have to get in there and edit and fix and play with to make sure it's structured correctly and securely and works without bugs. This little gun on the side of the player is not part of the player model. It just gets created separately on its own. It's a really strange choice from the AI, but you know, the AI does what it does. The AI also just like adds sound files. It says, "Hey, there's the sound file that you're going to host in the root of this game too, and that's going to play whenever things happen. And it doesn't make the sound file. It just says you need to make one and put it in there because we're going to have a sound. For this little like hit sound that I have going on, I asked it to just generate it. I didn't know how to do it with JavaScript, and I asked it to make that, and it did. So I can change all those to generated sounds if I want to. Um, yeah, this is it. This is the project. We're calling it. Uh, what are we calling it? Shoot to free us. STFU. We're calling it, and an earlier version was called something else. Shoot the first unit, and that is going away. Hopefully, when we release, so that other people can play and test. But we're just messing around with AI, and we're going to work on the other project that I've been working on before this popped into my head to just make was an MMORPG, and that's actually in Unity, and it's going to be made entirely, hopefully, with AI, but maybe with myself structuring it a little bit better, like it makes a little more sense instead of just allowing the AI to write in entirely in one file. Outside of that, that's it. If you want to play test the game, it's going to be available. I better to think what happens if I just let this go out there. Have to set up some things on the server so that it can't go over the limits. So anyway, is AI created Quake-like? Shoot to free us.